Hey, it's Ron, and I want to tell you a story about business and how that story changed everything. The factory floor smells like hot oil and metal dust. Air compressors hiss, rivet guns hammer, and a fine mist of sweat and smoke clings to every surface. Under the glare of a single hanging bulb, a woman in rolled-up sleeves tightens the last bolt on a B-24 bomber wing, her gloved hands trembling from vibration and fatigue. A foreman walks past, clipboard in hand, pretending not to stare. He still isn't sure what to make of it, an assembly line full of women doing what a year ago he swore they couldn't. The joke stopped a couple months back. The numbers didn't lie. Output was up, deadlines met, and errors were down. Outside, snow settles on the roof of the plant, while inside, the night shift hums like an engine. For every man sent overseas, 2 women have taken his place. Not in one city or one industry, but across the entire country. They're machining steel, wiring engines, running ledgers, driving trucks. And on this day, the War Manpower Commission puts it in writing. Women now make up more than 40% of the American civil workforce. For some, it's just a statistic. For others, it's a quiet revolution. What began as an emergency has turned into a new economy, one that looks nothing like the world before Pearl Harbor. But could these jobs ever go back to being men's work? Would the businesses that once resisted change now depend on it to survive? And on this night, December 18, 1944, could a single government report mark the moment work itself was rewritten? From Business Basics, I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast where we explain the stories that changed business forever. Throughout history, every date of the year has a story where business reshaped the world. Today, December 18th, that story takes us to 1944, when women filled the factories and business never looked the same. 2 years earlier, business leaders had sworn the plan would never work. Women, they argued, didn't have the strength, the skill, or the temperament for factory labor. But by 1944, the numbers told a different story. 5 million men overseas, production targets doubling, and the government threatening penalties for companies that couldn't meet quotas. The choice wasn't ideological anymore, it was survival. War planners responded with speed. The War Manpower Commission and the Office of War Information flooded newspapers with recruitment ads, training films, and posters. Rosie the Riveter wasn't just propaganda, she was a business necessity. Within months, corporations that had once rejected female applicants were opening training schools, modifying equipment, even redesigning restrooms. Factory managers who'd once dismissed the idea now found themselves rewriting policy. New shift schedules, new safety rules, new management hierarchies. The cultural shock was real. Supervisors learned that some of their most efficient workers didn't wear ties. Women brought different problem-solving methods, higher retention, and lower absenteeism. The math just couldn't be ignored. In the boardrooms, resistance kind of softened. Executives who had refused to hire women now bragged about the output. The conversation shifted from whether women could work to how to keep them there long enough to finish the job. Business was adapting in real time, not because it wanted to, but because it had no other choice. By the end of 1944, that temporary adaptation had become structural. Entire industries were reorganized around female labor. Aircraft, munitions, railroads, and clerical work. Human resources as a discipline was being invented on the fly, tasked with managing a workforce that looked nothing like the one before the war. Private firms worked with government agencies to create job classifications and standardized pay scales and formal training programs, frameworks that would later define modern employment systems. Production efficiency soared, and companies began noticing another side effect: workplace innovation. Women redesigned tools for smaller hands, streamlined production steps, and improved record-keeping methods. The supposed weaker workers were turning into efficiency experts. The War Manpower Commission's December report simply confirmed what the economy already knew: that the female workforce wasn't a substitution, it was a revolution. Employers started asking new questions. How do we keep them after the war? And what happens if we send them home? As factories reached peak output, executives realized that business strategy had changed forever. Skills, not gender, determined productivity. And the companies willing to see that were already planning their post-war advantage.
Adoption of teens from foster care is a topic not enough people know about, and we're here to change that. I'm April Dinwiddie, host of the new podcast, Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Each episode brings you compelling real-life adoption stories told by the families that live them with commentary from experts. Visit adoptuskids.org/podcast or subscribe to Navigating Adoption, presented by Adopt US Kids. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Administration for Children and Families and the Ad Council.
When the war ended, business leaders assumed everything would snap back. Soldiers would reclaim their jobs, and women would quietly return home. Well, as you can imagine, it didn't happen that way. Many did leave, but millions didn't want to. They'd learned new skills, earned steady paychecks, and seen themselves as part of the nation's industrial machine. The factories that had relied on them couldn't simply unwind what they'd built. By 1946, women still made up more than a quarter of the civilian workforce, and a generation of employers had learned the value of flexibility. The experiment had revealed something fundamental. Talent wasn't tied to gender, and productivity had nothing to do with tradition. Companies that understood this carried the advantage into peacetime. Firms in manufacturing, retail, and the clerical sectors retained women in permanent roles. The newly formalized personnel departments evolved into human resources divisions, a direct byproduct of wartime necessity. Training, benefits, job classification, and labor metrics all became standard business tools. Culturally, this shift was slower. Women who stayed faced pressure to give up men's jobs. Yet the economics didn't lie. Dual-income households created new consumer markets. Appliances, clothing, childcare, education, industries that would define post-war prosperity. That 40% statistic wasn't just a number on a government memo. It marked the moment when American business realized it could adapt to social change and profit from it. All of that on December 18, 1944, the day the factory floor proved that inclusion wasn't charity, it was strategy. I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast that finds the turning points behind the headlines. To hear more stories like this, follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. And if you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more people find the story behind the business. Want to actually understand business without the fluff or the buzzwords or the MBA language? Start by visiting businessdailypodcast.com.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can send money to kids quickly, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Try Greenlight risk-free today at greenlight.com/Wondery.